Hi guys, welcome back to Flick Finesse. This time, we've lined up 12 of the most mind-blowing thriller movies you can stream right now on Prime Video, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and AMC Plus. These films are packed with psychological twists, eerie atmospheres, and stories that'll keep you guessing till the very end. Underrated gems, critically acclaimed thrillers, there's something here for every fan of edge-of-your-seat suspense. So let's not waste any time and dive right into the list. Number 12, Opus. Directed by Mark Anthony Green, Opus is a surreal and stylized horror satire that explores the blurred lines between fame, cult mentality, and artistic ego. The story follows Ariel Ekton, a sharp-witted journalist who joins a group of influencers and critics at a secluded desert compound for the long-awaited return of reclusive music legend Alfred Moretti. As the guests prepare to hear his mythical new album, they uncover disturbing rituals and unsettling truths lurking beneath the surface, turning what begins as a glitzy media event into a descent into madness. John Malkovich delivers a magnetic performance as Moretti, embodying both grandeur and menace with theatrical flair. Ayo Edebiri brings grounded intelligence and dry humor as Ariel, anchoring the film's emotional center. The ensemble cast plays their archetypes with gusto, though the script offers them limited depth to explore. Though visually sleek and occasionally gripping, Opus falters under the weight of its own ambitions. It flirts with provocative themes but settles into familiar genre tropes without fully realizing its satirical edge. Number 11, Prodigy. Directed by Alex Hawley and Brian Vidal, Prodigy is a minimalist and cerebral sci-fi thriller that blends psychological tension with philosophical undertones about power, control, and emotional intelligence. The story follows Dr. James Fonda, a seasoned psychologist called to a secret military facility to assess a dangerous young girl named Ellie. Gifted with an extraordinary intellect and unexplained telekinetic powers, Ellie is held under strict surveillance and considered a national security threat. But as Fonda engages her in a psychological duel, he begins to question who the real threat is, her or the system trying to contain her. Richard Neal brings a calm authority to Dr. Fonda, portraying a man struggling to balance empathy and duty. Opposite him, Savannah Lyles delivers a chillingly controlled performance as Ellie, icy, brilliant, and emotionally complex. The dynamic between the two is electric, with each conversation peeling back another layer of fear, trauma, and suppressed humanity. Though confined mostly to a single interrogation room, Prodigy maintains gripping tension through sharp dialogue, moral ambiguity, and subtle shifts in power. It's a slow-burn thriller that asks big questions about childhood trauma, institutional cruelty, and the dangers of weaponizing genius, making it a compelling watch for fans of tightly wound, character-driven sci-fi. Number 10, Dreamland. Directed by Miles Joris Parafit, Dreamland is a poetic and slow-burning Depression-era crime thriller that blends aching romance with the desolation of Dust Bowl America. The story centers on Eugene Evans, a restless teenager stuck in a drought-stricken Texas town during the 1930s. When he discovers Allison Wells, a wounded and wanted bank robber hiding in his family's barn, his life takes a dramatic turn. Torn between turning her in for a bounty or helping her flee to freedom, Eugene finds himself drawn into a high-stakes fantasy that collides headfirst with grim reality. Finn Cole leads the film with a soft-spoken vulnerability, portraying Eugene as both naive and quietly defiant. Margot Robbie brings a magnetic presence to Allison. Her performance is both seductive and enigmatic, walking a fine line between victim and manipulator. Their chemistry simmers beneath the surface, elevating what could have been a standard fugitive romance into something more emotionally complex. For those who appreciate character-driven storytelling and stylized Americana, Dreamland offers a haunting, if melancholic, ride through a crumbling dream. Number 9, Killing Ground. Directed by Damien Power, Killing Ground is a stark and nerve-wracking survival thriller that strips the genre down to its rawest elements, fusing realism with relentless dread in the unforgiving Australian wilderness. The film follows a young couple, Ian and Sam, who arrive at a remote campsite to find an abandoned tent and no sign of its occupants. As their idyllic getaway slowly curdles into paranoia, the film intercuts with the story of the missing family and the two men responsible for their disappearance, building a chilling portrait of cruelty, chance, and the fragility of safety. Aaron Pedersen delivers a chilling performance as one of the antagonists, crafting a character that feels disturbingly grounded and unpredictable. Harriet Dyer and Ian Meadows bring emotional authenticity and rising panic to their roles, capturing the transformation from carefree tourists to desperate survivors in a world with no rules and no escape. Brutal, unsentimental, and deeply unsettling, Killing Ground avoids typical horror theatrics in favor of quiet realism and cold inevitability. Number 8. Minamata. Directed by Andrew Levitas, Minamata is a somber and quietly powerful biographical drama that fuses social justice storytelling with intimate character study and visual poetry. The film centers on W. Eugene Smith, a once renowned photojournalist now living in self-imposed exile, whose life is jolted back into motion when he's sent to Japan to document the mercury poisoning crisis devastating the coastal town of Minamata. As he immerses himself in the suffering of the local community, Smith finds renewed purpose in capturing their pain and in confronting the powerful corporation responsible. Johnny Depp anchors the film with a worn, subdued performance that strips away vanity in favor of weathered authenticity. He brings a sense of haunted detachment to Smith, slowly replaced by urgency and empathy. Opposite him, Minami delivers a quietly affecting turn as Eileen, grounding the narrative with emotional clarity and cultural nuance. With its mournful tone, evocative imagery, and a deep respect for truth, the film speaks less through spectacle and more through conviction, making it a haunting tribute to the power of bearing witness. Number 7. The Riot Club. Directed by Lone Scherfig, The Riot Club is a biting and claustrophobic social thriller that skewers privilege and elitism through a lens of escalating tension and moral decay. Stylish yet discomforting, it blends dark satire with psychological drama, turning Oxford's ivory towers into a breeding ground for entitlement and violence. The film centers on two Oxford freshmen, Miles, an idealistic newcomer, and Alastair, a bitter aristocrat, who are inducted into the secretive and ultra-exclusive Riot Club, where wealth, intellect, and unchecked power collide. What begins as an elite boys' dinner descends into a harrowing night of excess, cruelty, and class-fueled aggression that reveals the rot beneath refined traditions. Max Irons brings quiet integrity and emotional conflict to Miles, anchoring the film's moral center, while Sam Claflin is magnetic and menacing as Alastair, capturing the arrogant volatility of privilege with chilling precision. The ensemble cast, Douglas Booth, Freddie Fox, and Holiday Granger among them, contributes to a toxic atmosphere that feels both theatrical and alarmingly real. Visually polished and thematically charged, The Riot Club unfolds like a pressure cooker, slowly tightening its grip until it explodes in a scene of brutal clarity. Number 6. The Ninth Gate. Directed by Roman Polanski, The Ninth Gate is a slow-burning and cerebral occult thriller that blends esoteric mystery with noir sensibilities and a sly undercurrent of supernatural ambiguity. The film centers on Dean Corso, a rare book dealer hired to authenticate a legendary 17th century text said to hold the power to summon the devil. As Corso travels across Europe to examine the remaining copies, he becomes entangled in a series of sinister events and cryptic symbols, unraveling a puzzle that leads him deeper into a world of ritual, obsession, and possibly damnation. Johnny Depp anchors the film with a cool, detached performance that captures Corso's skepticism and moral ambiguity. His portrayal is quietly absorbing, balancing intellectual curiosity with a growing sense of unease. He's joined by a haunting supporting cast, including Frank Langella as a fanatical collector and Emmanuelle Sainier as a mysterious woman who may be more than she seems. Fans of occult thrillers and metaphysical mysteries will find it hypnotic, ambiguous, and unmistakably Polanski. Number 5, The Ruins. Directed by Carter Smith, The Ruins is a tightly wound and unflinchingly brutal horror thriller that fuses survivalist dread with creeping body horror and a bleak sense of inevitability. The film centers on a group of young tourists in Mexico who venture to an off-the-map Mayan temple, expecting adventure and discovery. But when they arrive, they find themselves trapped by hostile locals who won't let them leave, and soon realize the real threat lies within the ruins themselves. An ancient, sentient force that attacks not with claws, but with insidious, parasitic patience. Jonathan Tucker delivers a grounded and intense performance as Jeff, the group's quiet voice of reason, while Gina Malone, Shawn Ashmore, and Laura Ramsey round out a cast that effectively portrays the unraveling of friendship, sanity, and physical endurance. Each character is pushed to the edge in increasingly disturbing ways, and their descent feels harrowingly authentic. Visceral, contained, and relentlessly grim, The Ruins doesn't rely on supernatural gimmicks or cheap thrills. Instead, it thrives on tension, slow-burning terror, and the horrifying breakdown of both body and mind. Fans of bleak, psychologically charged horror will find it gripping, grotesque, and deeply unsettling. Number 4, Cut Off. Directed by Christian Alvart, Cut Off is a grisly and cerebral German thriller that fuses forensic horror with breakneck suspense and grim social commentary. The story follows forensic pathologist Paul Hertzfeld, who discovers a chilling message hidden inside a corpse, one that sets off a frantic race against time to save his kidnapped daughter. As a deadly storm isolates the island of Heligoland, Hertzfeld teams up with a stranded young woman to follow a grotesque trail of clues hidden in mutilated bodies, leading deeper into a conspiracy soaked in blood and betrayal. Moritz Bleibtreu brings haunted intensity to Hertzfeld, portraying a man driven more by guilt than heroism, while Jasna Fritzi Bauer delivers a raw and vulnerable performance as Linda, a bystander pulled into a nightmare far beyond her control. Unapologetically graphic and narratively complex, Cut Off doesn't flinch from gore or despair. Instead, it leans into its autopsy table realism and escalating dread, delivering a thriller that is both physically gruesome and mentally exhausting. Number 3, The Double. Directed by Richard Ayoade, The Double is a surreal and offbeat psychological thriller that fuses Kafkaesque absurdity with pitch-black humor and existential dread. The story follows Simon James, a meek and overlooked office drone whose life is upended when his exact physical double, James Simon, suddenly appears at work. Unlike Simon, James is charismatic, confident, and immediately beloved, slowly hijacking Simon's relationships, career, and sense of self in a world that increasingly refuses to acknowledge the difference between the two. Jesse Eisenberg delivers a remarkable dual performance, playing both roles with razor-sharp distinction. As Simon, he's withdrawn and repressed. As James, he's slick and manipulative. Eisenberg's ability to pivot between the two makes the tension deeply personal and psychologically rich. It's a slow-burning thriller that thrives on discomfort, irony, and philosophical questions. Fans of cerebral, visually inventive cinema will find it haunting, strange, and unmistakably Ayoade. Number 2, A Different Man, directed by Aaron Schimberg. A Different Man is a surreal and darkly comic psychological thriller that blends identity crisis with body horror and biting satire about beauty, authenticity, and the need to be seen. The film follows Edward, a disfigured and struggling actor whose life changes after undergoing an experimental surgery that transforms his appearance. Reborn as a conventionally handsome man, he adopts a new name and identity. But when a theater production about his former self casts another actor with his old condition, Edward's obsession grows, and what begins as curiosity spirals into envy, self-loathing, and a dangerous unraveling of identity. Sebastian Stan delivers a haunting dual-layered performance, portraying both Edward's vulnerability and his manufactured confidence with eerie precision. He's matched by Adam Pearson, whose natural charisma and grounded presence challenge every assumption Edward clings to. Renate Reinsve adds thoughtful complexity as the playwright caught between admiration and appropriation. Fans of thought-provoking, genre-bending cinema will find it provocative, disturbing, and unmistakably Schimberg. Number 1, I See You. Directed by Adam Randall, I See You is a cleverly constructed and offbeat thriller that blends domestic mystery with psychological tension and genre-defying twists. The film centers on Detective Greg Harper, whose family is unraveling under the weight of his wife's infidelity, just as he's assigned to a disturbing missing persons case that mirrors a series of past child abductions. But as strange occurrences begin to plague their home, objects shifting, doors opening, and eerie sounds creeping in, the narrative takes an unexpected turn, revealing a hidden layer of truth that redefines everything we've seen. John Tenney grounds the story with a quietly tormented performance, while Helen Hunt brings a fragile unease to her role as the distant, guilt-ridden wife. Their dynamic sets the stage for a mounting sense of dread. Supported by Judah Lewis and a cast that subtly amplifies the tension until it snaps in surprising ways. Fans of twisty, unconventional mysteries will find it deeply satisfying and unmistakably unique.